Greetings from God's country at the gateway to the Ozarks in Fairfield Bay, Arkansas. This is the Fairfield Bay Gadfly, coming to you from the Flytrap Studio with the Fairfield Bay Gadfly Presents. Today, we will look at this day in history, uncover what is going on in the world, and reflect on how such happenings affect all of us. This past week has been very busy for the Gadfly, and I'm a bit behind on getting things together. However, life goes on all over the world, even to the hills of Arkansas. Now, let's get things started. Welcome to this day in history. On March 23rd, 1839, the initials OK are first published in the Boston Morning Post. Meant as an abbreviation for all correct, a popular slang misspelling of all correct at the time, OK steadily made its way into the everyday speech of Americans. Now, is everything okay in the world? That's a big no. What about in the U.S.? Again, a big no. Now, how about the state of Arkansas? As usual, no. What about our little tiny hamlet of Fairfield Bay, Arkansas? Definitely no. We could go on and on, but why beat our heads against the wall? Now, on an international basis, Ukraine. What will the world do to end the travesty currently happening in Ukraine? When will the conflict spill over into surrounding countries? You say it won't spread? And I say, you haven't been paying attention. At the present time, we have a Ukrainian leader who last week appealed to the U.S. Congress for help. I will say that the U.S. is in the process of providing additional armaments, but no fighter aircraft or no-fly zone. I have previously compared President Zelensky to Winston Churchill, and I believe the comparison still stands. There is an alleged quote from Churchill that says, Americans will always do the right thing, only after they have tried everything else. There are some questions as to if Churchill ever said those words, but they still ring true through the course of history. The world now watches with morbid curiosity as Vlad the Impaler Putin turns the clock of history back to 1939 and the rise of Hitler using the same techniques and reasoning as Putin is currently using. Many of us are children of the greatest generation that saved the world from Nazi aggression and Japanese imperialism. We saw the sacrifices of our parents. We saw how they responded in ensuring America stayed great and strong after the war. We saw how our parents cared for their families. As we daily lose our connection with our parents' generation, we lose a piece of America. Ukraine is now faced with an aggression no less than England and the world faced in World War II. It's time to completely cut off Russia from the rest of the economic world. Turn off their technology. Turn off all monetary transactions with the rest of the world. End all commercial transportation to and from Russia. All such actions do not involve sending the U.S. military into harm's way. Another international issue relates to China's current aggression to attempt to completely take over the South China Sea. Over the last 20 years, China has continued its expansion into the area and has armed a couple of artificial islands with anti-ship and anti-aircraft missile systems, along with other military systems that threaten all of the countries bordering the South China Sea. The Ukraine issue presents a perfect opportunity for the People's Republic of China to expand their grip on the other side of the world. It's to China's advantage to allow Putin to continue his attack on Ukraine. In fact, one might opine that Putin is actually taking his time invading Ukraine to help China. I'm going to give you one more fact about this day in history. On March 23rd, 1775, Patrick Henry gave his famous "Give me liberty or give me death" speech. The last lines of the speech say, "Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death." Those words took courage. And again, from the mouth of Winston Churchill, who said, "Courage is rightly esteemed the first of human qualities, because it has been said, it is the quality which guarantees all others." We are seeing courage from President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people. Where is the American courage? Now, on a national basis, just what we need: another Supreme Court nominees hearing before the U.S. Senate. There will be posturing and speechification, that's a big word, from both sides. In the end, there are probably enough Democrats and spineless Republicans to ensure Jackson's confirmation. They say it's not about race, but we all know it is exactly about race. There is no end to the continual use of the racial divide to destroy the United States. We need only look to the efforts to identify and prosecute participants in the supposed quote-unquote insurrection of January 6, 2021. It was a riot, folks, and was more than likely encouraged and allowed to get out of hand by the powers in Washington, D.C. Why hasn't the same level of scrutiny been applied to the riots of Minneapolis, Seattle, and other cities that allowed criminals to burn down entire sections of major cities? Or, in the case of Seattle, allowed a complete takeover of part of a major city by thugs and hoodlums, seeking, of course, quote-unquote, racial justice and equality. The Democrat leaders of the cities affected by such rioting, looting, and murder did nothing to stem the tide of such criminal behavior, other than try to prosecute a teenager who killed two of the thugs who purposely attacked him. Fortunately, the facts of the case saved the young man from prison. But the fact remains that leftist leaders will allow the destruction of their cities on the principles of their ideologies. Such inaction is a cancer within our society. If you don't think it will come to your town, don't be so sure. I highly recommend quality long arms and sufficient ammunition. Now, on a state level, on a positive note, the daily COVID updates have now been relegated to page 3 of the Arkansas section of the Democrat Gazette. Do you realize that the Democrat Gazette is going to have to figure out what to do with the current 4 pages of useless COVID information they publish daily in the back of the national news section? COVID is long past the endemic stage of a virus and will be with us from now to the end of the world, so get used to it. Then we have activist Judge Wendell Griffin throwing out 4 voting laws passed by the legislature. Judge Griffin should have been removed from the bench a long time ago, yet here we are again having to spend unnecessary legal time and pleadings to have his rulings overturned by the Arkansas Supreme Court. If I was a member of the group supposedly represented by the plaintiffs, I would be embarrassed to think others might think I was so stupid I couldn't figure out how to vote. The more we dilute the power of the ballot box, the more we destroy America. Now, locally, the Ukrainian affair is striking home in the hills. It seems as though the Fairfield Bay Police Department reported at the last city council meeting that police patrols may have to be limited due to the rising cost of fuel. Is the city so broke they can't afford fuel for police protection? Well, this might be the reason. The repairs to the conference center are currently estimated by the contractor at $514,447. The city is in the process of obtaining a $300,000 loan from Eagle Bank with the Fairfield Bay Senior Community Center as collateral. Okay, where's the remaining $214,447 coming from? Let's see. The mayor suggested that some could come from city funds and possibly some of the $196,363 currently in the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 account. The term robbing Peter to pay Paul has come up several times at city council meetings, and it now appears like the Fairfield Bay city government is like a low-income family trying to figure out how to pay the rent and the electricity bill with not enough funds for either. I hate to say it, but the conference center has now become an albatross around the neck of the city. Hard decisions must be made, and made soon. Public health and safety take precedence over entertainment. Finally, the Fairfield Bay Community Club announced that they have worked out a deal with Wyndham Properties to take over the 2,032 lots that Wyndham has owned for many years, but has refused to sell to prospective buyers. I certainly have mixed feelings about the deal. It's a good thing for expansion of new home construction and the various trails around the city, both of which were not allowed as long as Wyndham owned the properties. All of that has been said about the deal was that it only cost the club $10 to purchase all 2,032 lots. However, as someone who has purchased several properties over the year, I know that there are survey costs, appraisal costs, closing costs, just to mention a few items. Also, I realize that such costs, along with the annual real property taxes on the lots, which I guesstimate between $25,000 to $35,000 per year, could be offset by the sale of some of the lots. I'm just saying that these additional costs more than likely would not have been included on any non-disclosure agreement and should have been disclosed with the announcement for true transparency. Further, speaking of documentation, I would also encourage the board to release the full report by the IMST Corporation concerning the resort convenience store on Highway 16 and the sale of fuel out of that store. The copies of the partial report posted on Facebook certainly do not represent the entirety of the report. As members of the club who paid for the report with our dues, such reports should be available for review without constraint or censoring. Again, it's time to cue Jeannie C. Riley and her famous song. Thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in today. This is the Fairfield Bay Gadfly bringing you truth from above and signing off for now.